Riley Quinn steps into the 37th floor boardroom and feels the air tighten around her as if the glass walls are closing in. The city glittering beneath a sky the color of steel. Atlas Tower is the biggest pitch of her career, the kind of account that decides which agencies live or die. She spent 3 weeks sleeping on the office couch, running numbers and rewriting decks until dawn. Now the final slide of her presentation glows on the massive screen behind her. A bold headline promising to turn a tired real estate brand into a vision of urban future. Her name is printed under the title as lead strategist. She exhales, smooths her blazer, and looks down the table at the Atlas executives seated across from her. They are polished, expensive, and they all have the same bored caution in their eyes. The only empty chair is at the head of the client's side, reserved for the new vice president of brand. He is running late, which already tells her too much about how the power works here.
When you are ready, Riley, take it away.
Her boss voice is calm, but the message underneath is clear. No mistakes, no doubts. This is the meeting that keeps their agency on the map. Riley launches into the pitch, her voice steady as she walks them through the problem. The market share slide, the social listening data, the way public sentiment around Atlas has curdled from old money prestige into stale excess. She talks about reframing Atlas Tower as a living ecosystem instead of a monument, about community partnerships and transparent sustainability, about making the skyscraper feel less like a fortress and more like a home. Heads lift. One of the directors leans forward. A board member scribbles notes. The energy in the room warms by a few degrees and Riley feels it. That snap when an idea lands. She is finishing the rollout timeline when the boardroom door opens behind her. Footsteps cut across the carpet, and she glances up to see who dared walk in late to this. The new arrival is tall, in a dark suit with no tie, hair a little shorter than she remembers, jaw a little sharper. He carries a tablet in one hand and an apology in the curve of his mouth. For a heartbeat the world tilts. 3 years melt away. And all Riley can see is an airport departure gate. Rain-streaked windows. A promise that we will figure it out when I get back that turned into silence. Cole Maddox. Her first love. Her first real heartbreak. And now, the vice president, who can make or break her pitch, walks to the head of the table and sits without taking his eyes off her.
Please do not stop on my account. I want to hear the rest.
His voice is familiar and entirely wrong here. In this glass cage high above Midtown, Riley fingers tighten on the presentation remote. But she forces her shoulders square.
As I was saying, the Atlas Reset is not about changing your logo. It is about changing the story people tell when they see this tower against the skyline.
She finishes her final points, answers 2 questions from the board, then silence spreads across the table. The kind that means one person's opinion matters more than everyone else. The board members turn toward Cole. That tiny shift of bodies telling her everything. He has the power here. He always did have a knack for walking into a room and rearranging the orbit. He leans back in his chair, steeples his fingers, and studies the deck on his tablet. He looks almost like a stranger until he lifts his gaze, and she sees the man who once knew every bad habit she hid from the world.
It is ambitious. I will give you that. But it reads to me like you are trying to prove something about yourselves more than fix our brand problem.
The words are soft, almost polite, and they still land like a slap, because Cole never went for her work before. He was the one who stayed up with her until dawn talking through ideas when they were young and stupid, and building futures in tiny apartments.
Atlas asked for a reset that positions you as a future-facing landmark without alienating your current tenants. That is what this does. The fact that it also shows what my agency can do is not a flaw. It is insurance.
Her tone stays controlled, every syllable polished, but everyone at the table can hear the steel underneath. Even the junior accountant stops typing on her laptop.
Your media plan assumes we can increase spend by 30% in the first quarter. That is not realistic with our current debt structure. You saw the filings, so did you ignore them or hope the board would?
Heat climbs Riley's neck, humiliation and fury threading together. She spent the entire night fighting with her own finance director over those numbers. She knows exactly how thin the margin is.
We base the plan on your public filings and on the brief your own team sent. If your people left out context, that is a separate problem. The logic is sound, and the opportunity window is real.
For a second, something like pride flickers in his eyes. The old Cole who loved watching her argue a room into submission. Then it shudders behind a cooler mask, and she hates herself for noticing the difference.
Logic without context is arrogance, dressed up as strategy. If we bet wrong, shareholders do not care how elegant your slide looked on this screen.
Madeline shifts beside her, and Riley can feel the older woman tension without looking. This is not just about a client. It is about salaries and rent, and every junior staffer who thinks their job is safe.
With respect, playing safe is how Atlas let competitors steal your narrative. If you want a polite refresh, you do not need us at all. You can repaint the lobby and post some soft focus videos about legacy, but that will not fix the story people tell when they mention this tower.
A low murmur moves around the table. One of the board members presses his lips together like he is hiding a smile. Another frowns down at his notes, as if they might rescue him from the tension. Madeline steps in, smoothing edges, talking about flexible phased options and alternative budget tiers. The dance of politics. But Riley can feel what she has just done. She has let the past bleed into the room, and now the air buzzes with it. By the time the meeting ends, the polite smiles and handshakes feel brittle. The Atlas team files out with non-committal phrases about internal discussion and next steps. And Riley's stomach is a hard knot under her ribs.
Riley! My office! Right now!
Her boss does not raise her voice. She does not need to. Riley gathers her laptop and notes and feels Cole eyes on her even before she looks up. He lingers near the door while his team heads down the hall, the set of his shoulders tense. When Madeline steps out to take a call, he closes the boardroom door with a soft click.
We need to talk about how this is going to work if Atlas moves forward.
There is no we here. You are the client who just undercut my pitch in front of your board. I am the vendor you can ghost with one email.
Her voice stays low, but the anger in it rings, sharp and clean. Cole flinches almost invisibly. Then his expression settles into something cooler.
You came for my team numbers in there. If we end up working together, we have to be able to challenge each other without turning it into a street fight. The stakes are bigger than what happened 3 years ago.
You do not get to decide which history matters. Send your revisions. I will make the numbers pretty enough for your board, and you can pretend this is just another account.
For one unguarded moment, his eyes soften, regret, and something like hurt flickering through. Then, he steps back.
Atlas will make a call by Friday, whatever happens. The idea is strong. You always did know how to hit a nerve.
He leaves without waiting for an answer. The door closing on his cologne, and 1,000 questions she refuses to ask again. Madeline reappears a beat later. Arms folded, expression carved in stone.
You were brilliant and reckless in the same breath. If we lose Atlas because you let an old flame bait you, I will never forgive you. If we win it, I will pretend I planned this tension as a tactic.
Riley manages a tight nod, spends the next hour rewriting budget slides, and pretending her hands are not shaking. When she finally returns to her desk, a new email waits at the top of her inbox. Subject, partnership conditions. Her pulse roars as she opens it, eyes scanning the lines until they land on the sentence that yanks the floor out from under her again. Atlas Group is prepared to award the account to your agency on the condition that Riley Quinn serves as day-to-day lead and reports directly to Vice President Cole Maddox for the duration of the project. Monday morning arrives with gray clouds and bad coffee. Riley steps into the Atlas Tower project war room that her agency has set up on their floor and finds Cole already there. Jacket off, sleeves rolled, surrounded by printouts. The space used to be an unused conference room. Now the walls are covered in mood boards and timelines, sticky notes layered like scales, a battlefield mapped in markers and tape.
You are late.
I am right on time. Your clock is just used to being the center of the universe.
Their teams look up, a mix of discomfort and fascination in their faces. Everyone knows the rumors by now. X's forced into client and agency roles on a high-stakes account is better than a streaming drama. Cole slides a folder across the table toward her, his handwriting in the margins of her carefully built deck, entire sections circled, some pages flagged with sharp notes.
Legal hates your community activation idea. Risk is too high, and operations nearly choked when they saw your proposed construction timeline. We need a version that does not give everyone a heart attack.
Legal hates everything. It is their full-time job. And operations thinks delaying everything will magically make the market kinder. If you let them drive this, you will launch a very safe failure.
The junior strategist beside her coughs to hide a laugh. Cole shoots him a look that promises future pain. The tension in the room spikes.
We are not talking about my need for a quiet life. We are talking about hundreds of millions in debt. You do not get to treat that like stage dressing for your big creative moment.
Riley glares at him, picturing the version of Cole that once crashed on her tiny couch with a takeout box balanced on his knee. Ranting about incompetent managers, he has become one of the people he used to curse.
You did not hire us to color inside the lines. You hired us because Atlas is bleeding relevance. Pull every crazy thing out, and you are left with a beige tower and a beige campaign.
She taps the wall where the boldest concepts sit. High risk, high reward. The ideas that made junior staffers gasp when she first pinned them up. Now they look fragile under the weight of corporate fear. Cole looks at the boards, then at her, something like conflict crossing his face. He runs a hand through his hair, a habit she remembers from long study nights and half-paid rent.
Fine. We keep the rooftop greenhouse launch event and the open house festival. But the guerrilla projection stunt across the river is dead. City permits will bury us, and I will not give legal more ammunition than they already have.
It is a compromise he did not have to offer. 3 years ago he would have pushed her bolder. Now he is balancing departments and debt. Adulthood is a thief that steals edges and leaves careful calculations behind.
We trim the projection scope instead of killing it. One weekend, one curated story. Use residents' voices. You can sell that as transparency instead of chaos.
Around them, pens start moving again. People lean over laptops. The war room comes back to life, struck by the realization that these two do their best work when they are arguing on the same side of a problem, even if they do not admit it. By noon, they have broken the plan into 3 sprints. Riley team handling creative and media, Cole team wrangling internal approvals, every piece threaded through shared timelines that feel like tripwires. During a quick break, while everyone else hunts caffeine, Riley finds herself alone at the window, staring out at the skyline that used to feel like a promise, and now feels like a test she keeps retaking.
You hate that we cut the projection stunt, do you?
I hate that you are still good at sounding reasonable when you are wrong. You used to do that in our kitchen, when you forgot rent day existed.
He leans on the glass beside her, leaving a careful distance. His reflection looks older than the boy she loved. And there are new lines at the corners of his eyes that were not there before.
I never forgot rent day. I just pretended I could hustle out of it, until you dragged me to the spreadsheet and made me face math. You were always better at time and money than me.
The memory lands soft and painful. Riley's jaw tightens. She refuses to let nostalgia soften her anger. Not when he left with a single text saying, "We will talk soon," and then never picked up again.
Do not do that. Do not make jokes about the version of us that did not survive Heathrow Departure Lounge.
His shoulders tense at the mention of the city where they broke for good. He looks like he wants to explain, and she hates that part of her still wants to hear it.
This project does not happen if we treat every meeting like a grievance hearing. I am not asking you to forgive me. I am asking you to help me keep Atlas from collapsing in on itself.
You are asking me to save your career after you used mine as collateral damage. That is a big favor for someone who never gave me a reason why.
They stare each other down until a junior account manager bursts back into the room talking about a competitor agency, trying to poach one of Atlas' smaller buildings with a flashy street art campaign. The moment snaps, replaced by urgency. If the competitor wins enough small wins, Atlas will question betting big on this reset. Every minor move becomes part of their larger war.
Fine. Call a truce. For 60 days, we fight them instead of each other. After that, we can go back to hating each other in silence if you still want to.
A 60-day ceasefire. I work for the project, not for you. Do not confuse the two.
They shake on it, hands warm and familiar and wrong. The contact lasts 1 second too long before both of them pull away like they got burned. The teams pretend not to notice, but everyone breathes easier. By the end of the week, the truce has turned into something sharper. They volley emails at 2 a.m, argue over word choice and taglines, trade spreadsheets with tracked changes that read like coded messages. On the surface they are water and fire, agency and client, pushing and resisting. Underneath it is something else. A rhythm they once had in smaller ways, now scaled up to millions of dollars and a tower that touches the clouds. 2 weeks into the truce, the first real crisis hits. At 7:30 on a Thursday morning, Riley's phone explodes with alerts. Atlas Tower is trending for all the wrong reasons. An anonymous account has leaked an internal memo about tenant buyout negotiations. twisting the language to make Atlas look like a cartoon villain eager to evict families for profit. Screenshots spread faster than any planned campaign. By the time Riley Cab screeches up to Atlas headquarters, protesters have already gathered outside, holding hand-drawn signs that call the tower a parasite on the city. Cameras hover like vultures. Security waves her through when they see her badge inside. The lobby is a mess of staff rushing between elevators, executives barking into phones. A tangible sense of panic under the marble and glass. She finds Cole in a small situation room off the main floor, tie loosened, sleeves rolled, maps and social dashboards projected on the walls. His team hunched over laptops like they are trying to plug holes in a sinking ship.
Legal is trying to track the leak. Operations is furious. The board wants a statement in 1 hour, and half the city thinks we are cartoon villains. Welcome to Thursday.
Crisis is free publicity if you do not waste it. What is the truth behind the memo?
He looks at her, frustration and exhaustion carved deeper in his face than she has ever seen. This is not the polished executive from the boardroom. This is someone whose decisions have real human weight.
We are negotiating buyouts with a small slice of tenants in old units that do not meet code. The memo was outlining a relocation plan, but the wording is cold and easy to twist, like everything in corporate life.
Then we show the human side, real residents, the relocation packages, the upgrades. Transparency is the only way through. Hiding just convinces everyone that the worst version is true.
He nods slowly, then shoves a handset at her when the board calls in. Riley stands beside him in the cramped room as they present a joint response plan in real time, trading sentences without stepping on each other. It feels like the old days, hackathon nights, and shared coffees, building something messy and urgent. Only now the budget lines have more zeros, and the stakes are not grades, but livelihoods. They decide on a live-streamed town hall from the tower atrium. Invite media, residents, staff, no script, only talking points and brutal honesty. Every communicator instinct in the room twitches, but it is the only move that feels clean. Riley writes a draft of the opening statement, hands shaking only slightly. She passes it to Cole and watches his face as he reads about accountability and concrete steps instead of sterile language.
You put my job on the line 3 times in one paragraph. And it is still the first thing today that feels honest.
You hired us to stop pretending the tower is flawless. This is what that looks like, messy and human in front of cameras.
The town hall is chaotic, residents angry and afraid, reporters hungry, social feeds flooding with live comments. Cole stands under the glass ceiling lights and follows the plan, voice steady as he admits mistakes and outlines protections. At one point, a resident demands to know if executives would live in the old units they are asking families to leave. The question hangs heavy. Cole does not dodge it.
No, I would not! Which is exactly why we are not asking anyone to leave without a safe place to go, and why our renovation schedule is tied to actual signed leases, not wishful thinking.
His answer is imperfect and real. The room shifts, outrage tempered by the sense that someone in power is at least willing to stand in front of a firing squad without a shield. That night, protest coverage gives way to analysis pieces, some brutal, some surprisingly balanced. Riley watches sentiment slowly crawl from pure rage into wary curiosity. The crisis is not over, but the free fall slows. After 16 hours on site, they end up in an empty conference room. Laptops closed for the first time. City lights smeared against the glass, like distant fire.
You did not spin today. You could have thrown your staff under the bus, blamed the memo writers, hidden behind policy. You did not.
Maybe I finally listened to the girl who used to tell me that honesty is cheaper than constant damage control, even when it costs more up front.
There is a softness in his tone she has not heard since before the move that broke them. A version of Cole who believed they could build a life instead of a resume. It pulls at something in her chest she thought had scarred over.
Do not rewrite history! You listened until it was time to choose, and then you chose your career and a different country. And I got a text instead of a conversation.
He looks away, jaw tight. The silence between them, suddenly louder than the city outside. When he finally speaks, his voice is rougher.
You remember one text. I remember my father collapsing in the terminal when the call came about the stroke. I remember a company on the brink and a promotion that came with a leash. I was a coward. I know that. But it was not as simple as choosing a country over you.
The admission hits harder than any excuse. She never knew about the collapse. his family emergency, the pressure that turned that shiny promotion into a trap, anger and empathy crashed together in her, leaving her off balance.
You could have told me. I would have flown. I would have stayed. We could have figured it out. Instead, you shut me out and left me to rebuild alone.
His eyes shine in the dim light, not with tears, but with a kind of tired regret that looks older than his years. The cost of always choosing duty and pretending the loss does not hurt.
I did not know how to be the version of myself that you deserved while also being the son and executive everyone else needed. So I told myself walking away would spare you the worst of me. It was a lie. It just broke us both in different rooms.
The confession knocks the breath from her, not because it fixes anything, but because it finally feels like the truth she begged for and never got. 3 years late and delivered in a conference room instead of a coffee shop. They sit there in the quiet, adult lives hanging off them like heavy coats. And for the first time since Heathrow, Riley believes that maybe the story is more complicated than simple betrayal. Even if the pain still feels the same, the crisis bonds them in ways that polished decks never could. In the weeks that follow, Atlas starts implementing the town hall promises, and the campaign work deepens, every decision layered with real-world consequences. Riley finds herself in meeting, after meeting with departments that barely spoke to marketing before, maintenance crews, tenant liaisons, community leaders. Cole is at her side for most of them, translating corporate language into human stakes. Their arguments shift tone, still sharp but less about ego and more about perspective. When she pushes for bolder creative, he asks the questions tenants will ask when he leans toward risk management. She points at the bigger story they are trying to tell together. One evening, long after most staff have gone home, they are still in the war room refining copy for a key launch film. Pizza boxes and empty coffee cups forming a low-budget skyline on the table.
The current script sounds like something a committee wrote after a trust fall retreat. It needs a spine. Something honest about what this tower has been, as well as what it wants to be.
Cole reads the draft again, brows drawn, then pushes his chair back and stands, walking to the window where the real tower looms in the distance, lit floor by floor like a giant heartbeat.
For half this city, Atlas is a symbol of people like me, kids who grew up learning that success meant height and glass and an office above the clouds. For the other half, it is a symbol of all the doors that never opened for them. We cannot pretend either side is wrong.
The honesty in his voice catches her off guard. She opens her laptop and starts typing as he talks, weaving his words into the script, layering them with images she can already see, residents and staff and old photos of the neighborhood. When they play back the new version, the room goes quiet. Even the cleaning staff who wandered into empty trash cans pauses by the door to listen. It finally sounds like something worth saying.
You just stole my therapy monologue and turned it into a brand film. You know that.
Consider it payback for using my heartbreak as character development. We are even for one line each.
They laugh. The sound surprised out of them, lighter than anything they have shared in years. It hangs in the air like a small fragile bridge between who they were and who they are trying to be now. Of course, the universe cannot let them have uncomplicated progress for long. The competitor agency leaks a flashy teaser for their own urban renewal project, clearly targeting Atlas narrative. Social media loves a rivalry. The board panics. Whispers about whether they backed the right horse grow louder. Riley hears her own job mentioned in sentences that include the phrase contingency plan, and her chest tightens. In a closed-door board session, an older director suggests bringing in a second agency to consult alongside hers, splitting responsibility and risk. Riley is not in the room, but the news reaches her in minutes. She is packing up her things in the war room, ready to march into the meeting and fight for her work. When Cole appears in the doorway, tie-off expression, carved in something harder than corporate calm.
Do not go in there. I already told them no.
So now you get to decide which rooms I am allowed to fight in. That is not how this works. If they want to cut us out, they can say it to my face.
He steps closer, hands braced on the back of a chair, the tension in him humming like a live wire.
I am not cutting you out. I am telling them that bringing in another agency at this stage would blow up the timeline and the trust we have started to build. I staked my own reputation on you in that room, so maybe do not assume the worst of me every time.
The idea of Cole arguing for her in front of his board lands somewhere between vindication and terror. Because his career is tied to this tower even more tightly than hers, she knows what he risks when he puts his name behind hers.
You did that. For me.
He laughs once, no humor. Just tired honesty.
For the project, for the residents, for the version of this city I will be proud to put my name on. I also did it because I know you are the one person stubborn enough to drag this across the finish line, even when everyone else doubts it.
The words strip away the last thin excuse she had for keeping him in the villain box she built after Heathrow. He is still flawed, still stubborn, but he is standing on her side of the line when it matters. Days blur into late nights, they eat too many takeout meals at the war room table, argue over details that only people who care too much notice. And slowly the launch starts to look real instead of hypothetical. On the eve of the final board rehearsal, Riley falls asleep on the office couch again, laptop open on her chest. She wakes to a blanket she did not bring and the soft glow of the city through the blinds. Cole is at the other end of the couch. Shoes off, tie undone, reading through the new script under the weak lamp. The sight is so domestic and surreal it makes her throat tighten.
You should go home. Executives need beauty sleep or whatever your leadership books call it.
I would, but my day-to-day lead keeps rewriting scenes at 3 in the morning. Someone has to keep up.
They share a tired smile, something soft and unguarded, and for a moment the war room feels less like a battlefield and more like a strange shared living room where two lives that once ran parallel are learning how to overlap again without breaking. Launch day dawns clear and bright, the kind of sky event planners dream about. Atlas Tower glitters against the blue, like it knows it is under inspection from half the city. The atrium is transformed. Greenery from the new rooftop gardens, cascades down installations. Local artists' pieces line the walls, residents and tenants mingle with media and board members. The building feels less like a fortress and more like a festival. Riley stands near the stage, earpiece in, tablet under her arm, heart pounding hard enough to shake the lanyard around her neck. Months of work and years of unresolved history have all funneled into this moment. The launch film plays on a towering screen, blending old neighborhood photos with candid shots of residents, construction crews, office staff, Cole voiceover narrating the messy story of a building, learning how to be a better neighbor instead of an untouchable icon. As the film ends, the crowd reaction is not the polite applause she feared. It is loud and raw. Some cheers, some people wiping at eyes. The online feed spikes with comments calling it the first honest thing a real estate giant has said in years. Cole takes the stage for live remarks. No script in his hand, only a few bullet points in his head, and the weight of every decision that led here on his shoulders.
When I took this job, I thought my task was to polish a symbol, make the tower shine brighter. What I learned along the way is that shine means nothing if the people who live in its shadow do not see themselves in the light.
Riley watches from the edge, pride and something more complicated twisting together. She hears lines they wrote together, words that came from late-night confessions and old wounds, now reframed as a promise to a city. After the speeches, there are rooftop tours and community booths, media interviews and stakeholder handshakes. Riley moves like a conductor, keeping the chaos in rhythm, her phone buzzing with metrics that look miraculously very good. Sentiment online swings from outrage to cautious hope. The competitor agency teaser gets buried under clips of Atlas residents talking about concrete upgrades and visible change. The narrative war tilts, finally, in their favor. Late in the afternoon, when the crowd thins and staff start packing up signage, Riley escapes to a quiet balcony that overlooks the city. She leans on the rail, letting the noise fade under the distant sound of traffic. Cole finds her there, 2 glasses of sparkling water in hand instead of champagne. He passes one to her without comment and stands beside her, shoulder to shoulder but not touching.
The board is calling this a win. The numbers are good. The press is better than I hoped. Our competitor is very unhappy. You did what you came here to do.
We did it. You stood in front of the city and told the truth. I just made sure there were cameras rolling.
He laughs softly, the sound carried off by the wind. For a long moment they just look out at the skyline. They both chose as their battlefield, the place that gave them ambition and scars in equal measure.
The board offered me a bigger remit this morning, more properties, more power, more of the same, and for the first time I did not say yes immediately. I told them I need to renegotiate the terms of my life, not just my contract.
Riley turns to him surprised. The Cole she knew always grabbed the next rung on the ladder without stopping to see what it was leaning against. Adulthood has etched different priorities into his face.
Look at you, learning boundaries somewhere. The 22-year-old version of you just fainted into a pile of unpaid bills.
I spent 3 years proving I could outwork any ghost of my father and any doubt on this board. This project made me realize there is no point if I come home to an empty place and a life I do not recognize.
The air between them shifts, charged and fragile. She can feel the conversation steering toward a cliff they walked off once before. Only this time they are older and more aware of the fall.
Riley, I know I have no right to ask for anything. Not after Heathrow and the silence, and the way I let you think you were not worth fighting for. But I am asking anyway. Can we try again? Slowly. Honestly. Like two people who know exactly what it costs to walk away.
Her heart slams against her ribs. Part of her wants to say yes so fast. She trips over the word. Another part remembers nights on that office couch, wondering why she was not enough to merit a real goodbye. Both parts live in the same chest now.
I do not want a grand speech on a balcony that you forget when the next crisis hits. I want calendar invites where you actually show up, messages you answer, even when the news is bad. I want a partner, not a project.
He nods, eyes steady on hers, the wind tugging at his shirt sleeves. For once he does not offer a charming promise, he offers something smaller and more dangerous, the willingness to change.
Then we start with something small. Dinner, no work, no Atlas. Just you and me catching up like adults who survived the worst of each other and are still here. If you say no, I will respect it. But I will probably be annoying about it for a very long time.
A laugh escapes her, unexpected and real. She thinks about the way he stood beside her in crisis, the way he fought for her in boardrooms she was not allowed into, the way he finally told the truth about his fear and failure.
One dinner, and we see if we can talk without using corporate buzzwords as armor. If you start pitching synergy, I am leaving you with the check.
His grin is brighter than the tower lights behind him. Not the cocky smile of the boy she met in a campus coffee shop, but something softer and steadier. A man who knows what he almost lost. Below them, Atlas Tower hums with new energy. Residents wandering the freshly lit corridors. Staff trading stories about the strange day their executives let cameras in on the mess. The building is not perfect, neither are the people who run it, but it is trying, so are they. Riley looks at Cole, at the city, at the tower they almost ruined and somehow repaired together, and realizes that maybe second chances are not about pretending the first fracture never happened. Maybe they are about learning to live with the crack and still choose the person standing on the other side. She slips her hand into his adults with battle scars instead of fairy tale illusions, and together they watch the city lights blink awake as Atlas Tower begins its second story.
Thanks for watching. Follow for more romance stories.